Empires didn't collapse because of war, they collapsed because of broken money. Discover the hidden pattern exposing the next global currency collapse. In every era, currency collapse follows a chillingly familiar pattern. It starts with debt, war, or political dysfunction. Governments, desperate to sustain themselves, print money instead of raising taxes or cutting spending. At first, it seems like a solution. But then prices rise. The public loses trust. Money, the invisible glue of the economy, falls apart. Without trust in money, nothing else works. Trade halts. Savings evaporate. The system fractures. Let's rewind to ancient Rome. In the 3rd century AD, emperors facing military and administrative costs began diluting their silver coinage. A Roman denarius, once nearly pure silver, was reduced to near worthlessness. People noticed. Merchants refused debased coins. Soldiers demanded better payment. Prices surged, trade collapsed, and eventually, Rome could no longer sustain its empire. It wasn't just the barbarians at the gate, it was the rot within the currency itself. Fast forward to 1923 Germany. After World War I, the Weimar Republic owed crushing reparations. With gold reserves depleted, they resorted to printing marks. At first, this helped pay debts. But inflation spiraled. Prices doubled every few days. Savings were wiped out. People needed wheelbarrows of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. The middle class, once Germany's backbone, was financially annihilated. That hyperinflation laid the groundwork for extremism, instability, and eventually, the rise of fascism. More recently, we've seen echoes in Zimbabwe and Venezuela. In Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe's regime printed money to support collapsing agricultural production. The result? 80 billion% monthly inflation. In Venezuela, decades of mismanagement and printing bolivars led to complete monetary destruction. Shelves emptied, hunger spread, and citizens resorted to dollars, crypto, and barter to survive. These are not just economic failures, they're humanitarian disasters, born from broken money. So what's the common thread? Currency collapses follow a three-stage pattern. First, a nation experiences economic or political stress, war, deficits, corruption. Second, it chooses to print money rather than make painful reforms. Third, inflation sets in, then accelerates, then explodes. Confidence vanishes. People abandon the currency. And the empire falls, not from invasion, but implosion. Now, here's the hard question. Could it happen again, in our time? Look at the US. The federal debt just crossed $33 trillion. Since 2008, the Federal Reserve has printed trillions of dollars, especially during COVID. Inflation surged to 40-year highs. Interest rates have climbed. Yet deficits continue. The temptation to print hasn't gone away. Trust in the dollar is still strong, but history shows that trust erodes slowly, then all at once. If the dollar falters, the consequences are global. The dollar isn't just America's currency, it's the world's reserve. It underpins trade, debt, and global finance. If faith in the dollar breaks, every country, every market, every bank is affected. We're not just talking about recession, we're talking about systemic collapse. So where do people turn when fiat money fails? Historically, three options emerge. Gold, because it's tangible, scarce, and universally recognized. Special drawing rights, SDRs, issued by the IMF, act as a global basket currency, often used during crises. And now, Bitcoin. Digital, decentralized, with a fixed supply of 21 million. Bitcoin isn't just a tech asset, it's an idea. A hedge against trust failures in traditional systems. That's why many in Argentina, Turkey, Lebanon, and even the US, are looking beyond fiat. Inflation may seem tame for now, but all it takes is a policy mistake, a war, or a confidence shock to trigger collapse. And remember, no one expects it until it's already happening. Who's most at risk today? Argentina and Turkey face double-digit inflation. China is wrestling with local government debt and slowing growth. The EU is fragmented and aging. The US faces staggering deficits with no clear plan to stop. Each is one crisis away from a monetary reckoning. And when currencies collapse, the damage doesn't stay confined. Banks default. Trade seizes up. Social trust fractures. Civil unrest follows. What begins as an economic issue ends as a societal one. That's the real danger. So, what can you do? First, understand the risk. Don't assume stability is permanent. Second, diversify your assets. Own some gold, consider Bitcoin, hold real value. Third, pay attention to central banks. When they print, they're taxing you silently. And finally, prepare for volatility. The next collapse may not be a full empire, but it will still hurt those caught unaware. In the end, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Every great empire believed its currency was invincible. Until one day, it wasn't. The signs were there: debt, inflation, printing, denial. The pattern was always the same. So when you look at today's headlines, wars, rising inflation, printing presses back on, ask yourself, are we watching the start of another fall? Or are we still in time to change course? Because the truth is, empires don't die in fire. They die in silence, when their money breaks. And the next collapse may already be in motion. If you found this story compelling, insightful, or even unsettling, don't let it end here. History has a pattern, but so does awareness. Hit like to help more people uncover the truth behind collapsing currencies. Subscribe for more deep dives into Bitcoin, global finance, and the silent forces shaping our future. Stay informed and stay ahead.